I made a promise that after backtracking was over that I would make more top 10 lists, and while this is a top 10 list, this isn't the first one I was hoping to make after backtracking was over, as long as you completely ignore the top 10 CWL matches list that I made. It has become tradition by this point to watch every Fight of the Night awarded in a UFC calendar year and analyse them terribly enough to make a list about them, and you goddamn right, this intro is the only part of this video that's scripted. I much prefer flying by the seat of my pants anyway when it comes to these things, but I do have a few honourable mention fights that didn't quite make the cut, so let's go through those really quick. Those would be Stephen Thompson versus Kevin Holland, which is really good, even if the ending was a bit deflating. Gregory Rodriguez versus Chidi Njokuani, mostly because of Rodriguez's poor nose. And lastly, Marlon Vera versus Rob Font, which was a really good fight, but the wrong dude won. So let's get into the actual list. At number 10, we have Sean O'Malley versus Piotr Jan. Now, I know this is a very controversial one, especially considering the fact that a lot of people thought Piotr won the fight, but the fight was also just incredible in itself. I mean, you got Piotr Jan, who is the former champion and one of the best boxers, perhaps the best boxer in the bantamweight division going right now, versus Sean O'Malley, one of the most charismatic fighters in the entire roster right now, and one of the best strikers overall, with his much more well-rounded attack. But it was still a very fun back and forth bit of striking between the two. Like, Piotr was able to get into Sean's guard really well, found a lot of really good shots. Sean able to land his own stuff quite well. It was just really good back and forth between two fighters who are among the best in their division right now, and they're both top tier talents. I do, again, think that Piotr did do enough to win, at least by split decision, but I'm not going to complain too much about the results, even though the result is part of why it's number 10 and not higher. Still, it's very much a great fight, and definitely a good way to kick off this list, if you ask me. Number 10, we have Katlyn Chookagian versus Amanda Hebus. So this is the only women's fight on this list, and it's another damning example of why a UFC card should have more women's fights on them, because this was a really good women's fight, definitely the best one of 2022, and not just because it was awarded Fight of the Night. It was actually really great technical stuff between Katlyn and Amanda, and considering how much taller Katlyn is, it was amazing how much Amanda was able to get inside Katlyn's range. And yeah, just really good respect between the two, not a hint of animosity between them. And yeah, while it was a technical fight, it wasn't slow in any way. I mean, it was just a really fun 15 minutes of two women landing each other with sharp precision as well, especially from Amanda at times. Again, no complaints about how this one went. It was just a really good fight between two women who are vastly underrated in their division. I know that I know that Amanda's got more hype behind her, but Katlyn is not to be counted out, and I think she did really well in this fight too. And it was a very close fight all in all, so definitely worth checking out if you ask me. Number 8 is a bit of a weird one because it's got two things sort of going against it, one of which is the fact that I don't like one of the fighters particularly all that much, or at least I didn't used to like him, and the other one is the fact that the fighter I don't like got his Fight of the Night bonus. He got his Fight of the Night half of the bonus taken away from him, but number 8 is Julian Erosa versus Steven Peterson. So I don't like Erosa all that much. I think he was a bit of a knob during his time in The Ultimate Fighter. I mean, he had a headband with a dick on it for a reason, but I can't deny it. I don't know. This fight was just a lot of fun, and much like the Katlyn Chookagian and Amanda Hebus fight, it is docked a few points because of it being in the Apex Center, but there's not as much of a crowd. But this was one of the earliest Fight of the Nights of 2022, and it really stuck with me as the year went on. It is full of really, really fun moments, just the two dudes having the time of their lives, especially Julian. He just seems like he's really enjoying himself, and even though he came in overweight, I don't think he should have been screwed out of the Fight of the Night bonus because he put in a hell of a performance, as did Steven. It was just a really, really good bout between the two, and I actually liked how it played out more than I thought it would, and it was really nice to see Julian showing a bit more respect as he's getting older, even though he's only 3 years older than me. Just really good striking, some good wrestling on Steven's part from what I remember about the fight too. Again, another very close back and forth war between two dudes who are really good in their division, and Julian getting the win just barely. Just really good stuff. And number 7, we have Jamie Mullarkey versus Michael Johnson. So yeah, this was just a hell of a war. This one was one of the more brutal fights to watch as it went on as well. I mean, it was just two dudes who are at the height of their division. I think they were in the lightweight division, and just having a really good time. Again, Michael Johnson, usually not known for his respectful ways, but he showed a lot of it to Jamie, who himself seems like a very polite young man. This was just a really good fight. Amazing wrestling from Michael at times, and Jamie with... There's my cat. Jamie with some really good counters too, just great striking. Jamie able to use his range a lot, and I think that's what won him the fight by split decision, but it could have honestly gone either way, and Michael did a great job at some points as well, even hitting Jamie with some really nasty stuff, but wasn't even into the really nasty stuff until the next entry. But for this one, yeah, just a really good fight between two really good dudes in their division, and definitely a highlight of 2022 for me as a fight. It was just really nice to see the respect which is a recurring theme on this list. Spoiler alert. At number 6, we have Nate Landwehr versus David Onama. Now, this is one of the hardest hitting fights on this entire list. Just absolute slugfest between these two, and I really liked every moment of it. I don't think many people were expecting this fight to go as hard as it did, but goddamn, this fight went fucking hard. David Onama is a tough son of a bitch. Nate Landwehr is also a tough son of a bitch, and again, the two dudes just having a lot of fun, just having a really good fight. And again, no real complaints about the winner being Nate Landwehr here, although David Onama did put in the fucking work, and he hit Nate with some really nasty stuff, especially early on. So again, another fight that could have swung either way, another fight where I think the right man won, and another fight of the year. Number 5, we have Cyril Gane versus Tai Tuivasa in the UFC's first ever trip to France after a very, very long battle to try and get MMA legalized over there. So yeah, this was just two dudes having a lot of fun, and two dudes who in the heavyweight division move a lot faster than their name suggests, especially Cyril Gane. I was not expecting him to fight as fast as he did, and even though this ended a lot earlier than I think people are expecting it to end, I mean, it's a heavyweight fight, you're really not going to get a fight of the year if it goes the distance. I think it ended at a perfect time for a really good main event fight. Well, not just that, a great main event fight in the first ever UFC card in France, in Cyril's hometown, so he had the hometown crowd behind him. And speaking of which, the French crowd were fucking phenomenal, and they were molten hot for this fight, and I think they were happy with the other guy winning. Again, it was another great fight, and Tai himself didn't really look too shattered about the loss, and I really, really hope that him and Cyril shared a really good shoey. Well, not shared a shoey, they both had one each after the fight was over, I'm presuming. Just a really good fight, and a really molten hot crowd too. That really adds a lot for me. Next at number 4, we have Gilbert Burns versus Khamzat Chimaev in what is easily Chimaev's toughest fight of his career. Now, Chimaev is one of the big sight trains going in the UFC right now, and he's finished pretty much every fight he's had. And if memory serves, this is the only fight that's gone the distance, and he almost lost. I mean, Gilbert Burns, who was very underrated in the division until this point, I believe he's in the welterweight division, he put Khamzat through the fucking ringer, as if Khamzat needed that after, recently fighting off COVID at the time too. It was very, very tough night for Khamzat, but he still managed to pull out the win in a very brutal fight to watch at times, and almost uncomfortable. But Gilbert Burns was able to get inside Khamzat's guard really well, managed to counter some of the wrestling, but Khamzat did eventually start picking it up and started landing the strikes, and eventually he did manage to get the win by decision, and there's my cat cleaning himself because he can. It was just an incredible fight between two really, really good fighters, and not a result I think people were expecting. I don't think people were expecting Gilbert to go as hard as he did, but it definitely made the fight more interesting, and Khamzat definitely had to fucking work to get the win, and win he did, so congrats to both men. Number 3, we have one of the earliest examples of one of the best fights of the year. Davison Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno. The third one, I haven't seen that second one because it wasn't rolled a fight of the night, but I really should go back and rewatch it, and I can't wait for the fourth fight next year. It's going to be good. But the fact is, these two just have an amazing chemistry. They were one of my favourite fights of 2020 for that reason, and even though that fight went to a draw, the second fight went to Brandon, this fight went to Davison by decision, but he had to bloody well work for it. He had to use a lot of his instinct and a lot of his veteраnism to overcome Brandon, but Brandon was just way too scrappy for him, I think, and he was engaging a lot more with the wrestling, and definitely a lot more with striking. It's very, very, very close striking, and dazzlingly technical at times, and I think Brandon might have done enough to win, but that's always the great debate about it, because Davison did win, but it was very fucking close, and I'm glad they're running this one back, because I'm looking forward to the next one to being my favourite fight of 2023, if it is. I mean, I don't know what the future holds, but hopefully the next fight, the fourth fight, and hopefully the last fight between these two will be fucking incredible, because this one was, so have all the other ones been. I wouldn't know, I haven't seen the second one, but the first one's good, and this one is too, so watch it. Next at number 2, we have what is my award for the mad rough-ass bastard fight of the year. Brian Barberena versus Matt Brown. Now, Barberena versus Robbie Lawler did almost make it, but round 2 was a bit of a deflating thing for me, but this fight between him and Matt Brown, no dips in the action at all. Just two rough bastards battering the shit out of each other. It was almost a bit more like a bar fight than a professional MMA contest at times. And it surprisingly went the distance, which I don't think people were expecting. But holy hell, these two fucking went at each other. It was also further proof that Matt Brown, old dog that he is, against a much younger competitor like Brian Barberena, can still fucking go in the ring when he wants to. And yeah, it was just a really good, hard-hitting fight between two of the hardest-hitting fighters in the welterweight division. It was a guaranteed banger, and I'm glad it lived up to the hype. But as much as all of these have been guaranteed bangers, there was only one true best fight of 2022. I think it's obvious because I think it might be everyone else's number one, but it's Glover Teixeira versus Yuri Prochazka for the light heavyweight championship, and what an incredible story going in. You had Glover Teixeira, the man who had ground his arse off in the light heavyweight division, had only truly lost to the best in the division for the longest time. He'd only ever lost to the likes of Anthony Johnson, rest in peace, John Jones, Alexander Gustafsson, like the best names in the division. And then you got Yuri Prochazka, this new kid coming in, only a couple of months younger than me, bear in mind is Yuri, right? He comes in with this flashy offense, way quicker than a light heavyweight should be able to move. And you've got this young, hungry lion versus the old, the much older lion, I guess you could say, in Glover. And it was incredible to watch. It was incredible to see Glover's more tactical mindset overcoming Yuri at almost every turn. And Yuri was throwing a lot of his flashiest stuff, but it wasn't always landing, and it was always getting him in trouble. But he did land some big stuff, big enough to rock Glover, and Glover rocked Yuri right back. But eventually it led to Glover making one crucial mistake in the fifth round that would lead to him being submitted via rear naked choke. It's an incredible fight ending in one of the last 30 seconds of the entire fight, and every bit of action leading up to that was fucking incredible. Yuri did such a great job, and it was nice to see him learn as he slowly went along. Glover picking up on things and then slowly sort of losing his grip with it. It was such an incredible thing, and it's definitely my fight of the year, so if there's any fight, I mean, you should go back and watch all these, but if there's any fight you should watch, definitely more than all of them, it is Yuri Prochazka versus Glover Teixeira, and it's a goddamn shame what's happened to the light heavyweight belt afterwards because of Yuri's injury. Hopefully he comes back strong, and hopefully Glover does too. This fight rules. Go watch it. And that is it from me. That is all of my ramblings done. Next thing, I don't know, tomorrow. The first batch of 10 of my top 30 albums of the year. So that's really all I can self-promote. Then Wednesday will be 20 to 11, then Thursday will likely be 10 to 1. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm excited to see it, and I'm very excited for what the UFC has in 2023, because 2022 was a pretty good year for them, all things considered. So, I will see you all for that, and as always, thank you for watching, you're awesome. Bye-bye.